This episode of the Topcast is proudly supported by Rock School.
First thing to do, I like to actually show students, if they're not really familiar with what piano chord progressions sound like, is just to play something. So I'll just kind of make up something like this. So it will, you've done plenty of kind of, and you've got scales and all that kind of stuff. But what you might not know is that underlying music is chord progressions. Harmony and chords are really the foundation. So with a few little ideas, play pretty cool stuff like that, right? So that's what we're going to be getting you to be able to do, so that you can sit down at the piano and just improvise. Sound pretty good? Yeah, fantastic. You're listening to The Topcast, the original podcast for growth-minded instrumental music and voice teachers since 2015, with your host, Tim Topham. Our mission at Top Music is to empower instrumental music and voice teachers to find and nurture their innate creativity so that they can teach lessons that are innovative, integrated, and inspiring, and that will have a positive lifelong impact on their students. Join us each week as we interview teachers and creators from around the world and unpack fun and exciting ideas to maximize your teaching and studio business success. It's Tim Topham here. Welcome back to the Topcast. It's so great to be spending some time with you again today. Did you have fairly traditional / classical music lessons as a child? If you're like most teachers, you were probably never really introduced to chords or lead sheets by your teacher. You likely focused on the reading, performance, and interpretation, right? Maybe, though, you're a little bit sneaky and did your own work playing and perfecting music that you heard on the radio by ear, because, of course, for us, it was before YouTube for most of us. And maybe you were teaching yourself about chords, or you were playing for your church or something on the side, but perhaps you never had this experience. Whatever your background, most teachers today realize that teaching students explicitly about chords and harmony in lessons can have a profound impact on their understanding of all the music that they're learning and can improve their sight reading. But how do you do that when you were never taught it yourself? Well, that's what today's episode is all about. Over the last 10 years, I've created over a dozen courses for music teachers, and our Top Music Pro members have access to over 50 courses when you combine them with all the other amazing presenters and creators that we've had help us out. But one of them is my favorite, and today I want to tell you which one it is and give you a sneak peek into just one of the modules. This is because September is all about teaching pop, contemporary, and chord styles. And so we're going to be offering a very special price on this course if you'd like to buy it as a one-off purchase. Of course, if you're a Top Music Pro member, you already have access to this course. It also aligns with, drumroll, our composition competition, which is open to all our Top Music Pro member teachers and their students. The grand prize of this competition that we're running starting in October is publication in our Top Music Sheets collection next March. So it's another amazing reason to join Top Music Pro. If you'd like to find out more, topmusicpro.com. And if you'd like to find out more about our composition competition, head over to our show notes page. We'll be popping the link in there for you. So let's dive in. All right, so you're probably wondering what my favorite course is. Out of all of the ones I've created and all the ideas I've shared, my favorite is Chord Composing. 1,354 teachers have already re-energized their teaching by taking this course, and I would love for you to join us. It's a 10-week composing plan that's designed to introduce any student to the fun and power of a chord-based approach to playing and creating music at the piano. Just about all music, from Baroque to classical to jazz, pop, and rock, basically everything except serialism or atonalism, is based on chords. And yet explicit instruction around the chord-based nature of music, how it works, the theory behind it, how to create it, how it links together, seldom enters a traditional piano lesson. Well, I know that that's changing because of the flexibility and openness of teachers now, but I know it's a really hard change to make for lots of teachers. The power of chords to assist students in the reading and performance of traditional music, not to mention the deep theoretical understanding that a chord-based knowledge of music brings to a musician, is critical to a pianist's sight reading ability, understanding of musical genres, ability to improvise, and understanding of form and structure. Chord-based teaching provides a bridge between written musical theory textbooks and the practice of making music. It gives students a practical demonstration of and an immersion in the theory through a student's real-world love and innate understanding of popular music. in most cases. So put simply, this teaching approach connects students with the theory in a practical and meaningful way using musical structures that they innately know and understand. Even if your students aren't listening to a lot of pop music, they will get it. They understand it because they've been brought up with it and they've listened to it. So if you'd like your students to be able to read music more fluently, to be able to compose their own music and improvise out of trouble when performing, if you'd like them to be able to read a chord chart, fill in a left hand and accompany themselves as they sing, if you'd like your students to play in bands and have the best chance of making music for the rest of their life, then this program is for you. The 4-chord composing framework has 10 lessons on how to take your students from the basics of chords right through to writing their own complex chord compositions. I just believe learning about chord progressions is so beneficial for students. In fact, I had it written on a t-shirt, and you might have seen me wear it in videos or at conferences. I teach chords. Chords form the basis just of so much of what we do in teaching music. It just doesn't make sense to me that we, as music teachers, when we were having lessons, most of us were never really taught about it. We kind of had to make it up ourselves, teach ourselves, if we ever did. And for many teachers, of course, we didn't. And look, chords are fun. I've seen so many of my students over the years absolutely love learning about chords, many of which have gone on to write their own compositions. So this framework takes the overwhelm out of composing and chords, particularly if you've never done it before, by stripping it back to 4 chords only and 4 chord progressions only. It works really well for teens and kids who love pop and adults since they recognize that sound right away. It's also a sneaky way of teaching harmony, form and improvisation without students even realizing they're doing it. It's like, putting the veggies into the bolognese. It really is one of the best ways to make theory practical, and making theory practical is so much better than opening a book and going to a table and learning about theory of music without actually doing it. It's fun and accessible for all teachers and students. Even if you've never done this before, you will be able to do this and you'll be able to do it confidently. It makes the circle of fifths more than just some kind of scale torture device. I mean, when I was learning, the circle of fifths was this image that you would learn about sharps and flats from, and maybe you would have to play the scales around in that order. That was about it, right? Does anyone else remember that? This actually makes the circle of fifths mean something. And if you haven't sort of learned how you can use the circle of fifths in a practical, positive, fun, and engaging way, then you need to check out this framework. It deepens understanding, it resonates with students, and can be done with no books. Perfect for transfer teens' first lessons or lessons when students have forgotten their books, or they're just a bit dysregulated, or they come late, or whatever it is, and you just want to change things up. As I've said in presentations before, chords and pop are the lenses through which we can most effectively teach today's students about the building blocks of music. Now, I also love this framework because the course videos that go along with it feature me actually teaching this to a teenage student. His name was Will. Everyone loves seeing teachers teach, right? I love seeing masterclasses and lesson demonstrations because we can learn so much. So not only do you get the framework, you get to see me teaching it in action and my student Will's response to it. Now, this whole thing emerged out of one of my first ever downloads that I put on my original website, timtopham.com. It was called the 10-week chord teaching lesson plan. Put your hand up if you downloaded that. I reckon there will be some people listening who found that on the website years and years ago and downloaded it and perhaps even started using it. It was something that I developed over time with my own students, and I started putting it into order so other teachers could use it. So how's it structured now? So this framework is split up into a 10-module course, and I want to just briefly outline what the modules cover. And then we're actually going to have a listen to the first module. So the first module is on major and minor chords. There's no point diving into a framework about chords unless students understand the difference between the two, what makes them major and minor, how they sound, and how to play them all around the piano. So within one lesson, your student will know how to play any major or minor triad anywhere on the piano. Module 2 is all about pop piano playing, because playing pop chords is a skill to learn. Thankfully, it's not very difficult, but we do need to show them how to do it, particularly in the context of what's coming up. Module 3 is about composing with 4 chords. So this is the guts of this framework. This is where we introduce the concept of the circle of fifths and how chords relate to keys and how they can create their own pop songs using 4 chords. In Module 4, I expand to creating melodies because we also want to be able to create melodies to go along with our 4-chord compositions. Module 5, we're going to add new chord types. So this is where we talk about sevenths and diminished and augmented chords and things like that. Module 6, we talk about styles and patterns, particularly what's going on in the left hand, because that is so critical to the feel and flow of a piece of music that a student is playing or composing. In Module 7, we talk about form and structure, particularly in terms of pop music. And then in Module 8, we look at sevenths, borrowed chords and bass lines. Module 9, 4-chord composing apps and technology, so the kinds of apps and tech that you can use alongside this. And one of those, by the way, I'll talk about a little bit later, is GarageBand on the iPad. It is a phenomenal piece of software. If you haven't explored it before, it is so good. And we actually have a course dedicated to that, which links to 4-chord composing and shows you how to create these incredible backing tracks, symphonic, cinematic soundscapes to go along with your students' 4-chord compositions. And then in Module 10, it's called Where To Now. I talk about, okay, what's actually next. So without further ado, let's listen to the first module in the course. It's all about chords and chord progressions using something called my big small method for major and minor chords. You're going to hear me instructing my student Will. And if you'd like to watch the video for this episode, you can find it over on my YouTube channel or on my website at topmusic.co/chords. By the way, if you go to that link, you'll also see 20 tips for chord-based teaching, and you can download the first 3 lesson plans for this course. So if you want to check that out before you grab the whole course, you are more than welcome to do that. That's at topmusic.co/chords. Okay, here we go. Hi, I'm Tim Topham, and this is my student over here, Will Woods. And in this video, we're going to show you how to get started teaching a chordal approach to piano that will work perfectly alongside your current teaching, whether that's in individual students or in groups. This lesson is part 1 of a 10-part series that I've put together all about what I call 4-chord composing. So it's all about how to use chords to really motivate, engage, and inspire students in a compositional kind of framework. It works for students of all ages and abilities and is available to all members of my Inner Circle community. And the first 3 lessons are completely free on the blog, and that's probably where you're watching this right now. Whether or not you've taught this style before, anyone can do it, and I guarantee that your students are going to have an absolute blast by exploring it. You can find out more about grabbing the whole course at timtopham.com/chords, and if you scroll right to the bottom of that page, I'm offering a really special discount if you're not yet a member of my community so that you can grab full access. I've split the course into 10 modules. It's incredibly concentrated. There's a lot of material in there, and there literally is easily enough to fill probably a year's worth of training with a student, particularly if you're just doing 5 or 10 minutes as part of your normal lesson. So don't feel that this is a 10-week program. That would completely overwhelm a student really, really quickly. Each module in the course comes with a comprehensive step-by-step lesson plan. And as I say, you can get access to these if you haven't already downloaded them from timtopham.com/chords. And what I've tried to do with each of these is not only give you step-by-step instructions, you've got a number of teaching tips and reminders, and then at the end, practice tasks for the students so they can actually go away and work on things. I've got extension activities for students that are a little bit more advanced, technology that you can use, progressions to explore, and songs that use some of the ideas that we've been talking about in this lesson that students will hopefully know. In this first lesson, we're just going to be laying the foundations by getting students understanding major and minor chords, how to play them, how to find them really quickly, and how to physically play them on the piano. I'll give you some tricks for helping students make the relationship between chords that they see on paper and how they're going to play them so that we'll be ready by lesson 2 to actually play some pretty fun chord progressions. So I reckon we'll get started. So in lesson 1, the first thing to do, I like to actually show students, if they're not really familiar with what piano chord progressions sound like, is just to play something. So I'll just kind of make up something like this. So Will, I mean, you've done plenty of kind of, and you've got scales and all that kind of stuff. But what you might not know is that underlying music is chord progressions. Harmony and chords are really the foundation. So with a few little ideas, you can play pretty cool stuff like that, right?
So that's what we're going to be getting you to be able to do so that you can sit down at the piano and just improvise. Sound pretty good?
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. So really the first thing a student needs to know and Will needs to know is actually how to form a chord. So a triad, Will, is a series of notes. Well, let's start in C because that's nice and easy to understand. You know your C major scale, right? Can you just play for the first 5 notes of a C major scale, fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice job. So all we're going to do is we're going to take notes 1, we're going to skip a note, take note 3, skip a note, and take note 5, and play those 3 together. Nice. And I don't know if you can see it from here, but Will's using an unusual fingering here, which is really, really common that students will do this. So what are you using? 1, 2, and 4. And I've had students do this quite a lot, so that's not unusual at all. What I'd like you to do, can you try 1, 3, and 5? And see how that feels? Beautiful. And so some students will really struggle with 1, 3, and 5. That's totally cool. It doesn't bother me. I'll fix it up later on, but for these first few lessons, I just want to get some action. So if they're using 1, 2, and 3, or they're using 1, 2, and 4, they're the most common ones. Ideally 1, 3, and 5, but some students may have real trouble not playing fingers 2 and 4 in the process. So just look out for that. All right. So what we've got here is a C major chord. Nice and easy. Could you play it with your left hand, fingers 5, 3, and 1? Beautiful. Together. Beautiful. Nice, strong touch. I like that, Will. All right. Now, that's a major chord. And there's a structure to major and minor chords that is the same all over the piano, regardless of what key you're in, right? So what I want you to do is play that C with your thumb in the right hand. And I want you to just, and play the third finger as well, and just hold those 2 down. Beautiful. And I want you to count the number of notes that you've skipped, black and white, between those 2 fingers. How many is that?
3.
Beautiful. And if you play with the 5th finger at the top, how many notes are you skipping between the middle note and the top note?
2.
Beautiful. So one approach that I use to teach this to students is what I call the big small method. So at the moment, Will is playing a major chord, and I call this a big chord because between the notes C and E, he's skipped, was it 3?
3 notes.
3 notes skipped completely, and between the notes E and G, he skipped 2 notes, okay? So with that in mind, he's got a big gap first and then a smaller gap, which means it's a major chord, right? And this works wherever a student is on the piano, which is why it's really, really helpful. So Will, let's try and put this into action. Let's try and play a D major chord, and we're just going to build it from the bottom. So thumb's going to be on what note?
D.
Beautiful. You're going to skip how many notes, black and white?
3.
3. So I just get students to kind of tap on them. 1, 2, 3. And they're going to play the next note, which will be what note?
F sharp.
F sharp. Beautiful. And then we're skipping how many?
2.
2. And then we're playing the next note with our pinky. Beautiful. Play it all together. Nice job. Great. So this pattern works obviously for any major chord, regardless of where it starts on the piano. So would you like a little challenge?
Sure.
Yeah, let's go. Let's try A major.
A, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
Nice job. Beautiful. And another thing that I like students to realize with this method too is that there's similarities between chord shapes, how they feel to play and how they look, white and black notes on the piano. So Will, if you play that D chord again, you'll notice it's kind of like a triangle shape, right? Mm-hmm. You've got a black note on the third finger and 2 whites. Did you notice that when you played A, same shape with a C sharp in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is a really useful thing for students to actually learn, to visualize and see that there's commonalities between these chord shapes. There's one other chord that has exactly this shape. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you it now. In the future, I'm going to quiz you on it, so you need to remember it. So if you put your thumb on E, and don't worry about counting this time, just play that same shape. What middle finger what note will that be? Beautiful. Top. Great. So you can play that chord. What is that chord?
That is an E major.
Fantastic. So you now know that E major, D major, and A major all have the same shape, right? Just the same as C major and 2 other white note chords. Mm-hmm. Do you want to have a guess at which ones they are? You might want to play them.
C major.
Play C.
F major.
Yep. Hang on. F. What was that?
That's a G.
G, yeah, and F major. Yeah, great. Fantastic.
RSL Awards leads the way in creative education. We make qualifications and resources for everything from graded music and performing arts exams to practical vocational qualifications in sound engineering, theatre, and games design. So, if you want to be a musician, actor, lighting designer, dancer, or video game creator, we can help. Our success stories include million-selling artists like Ed Sheeran and the sound engineers who record him at studios like Abbey Road. Over 1 million people have an RSL certificate on their wall. So if you want to join the next generation of creatives, visit rslawards.com to find out more.
What if you play, why isn't D?
It's a minor chord
How do you know?
because it's not three gaps between the first and second, and two gaps between the second and third notes.
Right, so what's actually happened to our gaps now that we've gone to a minor chord?
Well, if you play it like that, you have two gaps between the first and second, and three gaps between the second and third.
Fantastic. So here's a D minor chord. You could also teach students this with a C minor chord, just for proof of the simple changes between major and minor. So now we've got a skip of 2 notes, black and white, and then a skip of 3. So the small interval is now first. So that, to me, makes it a minor. Okay, small first equals minor. Now, I've seen other teachers teach this in different ways. This is just one approach. You may disagree, you may like another method, totally fine. One of the most common other methods is to actually count all the notes. So starting with the C, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then play the next note. Or you could even count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So counting all the notes, including the ones that you're playing. It's totally up to you how you do it. There still will have the same relationship of big gaps and small gaps. And it could be a good, easy way to learn how to play these different chord types. Will, can you, using this method, play a C minor chord now? Fantastic, great. And now go to the major chord. Great. So what do you notice has changed in these two chords?
The middle finger has changed position.
Great. And what distance on the piano has it changed?
It has moved 1 key.
Yeah. Do you know what word we use in music to describe the distance between any two next door notes on the piano?
A second.
Yes, a minor second, or
I'm not sure.
a semitone.
A semitone.
Yeah, I know you've heard that word before, right? So the middle note is changing only a semitone. So it's really easy to find a minor if you know the major, or vice versa, right? Cool. All right, so I'm now going to quiz Will on a few more random chords and see if you can work these out. So let's go for E flat minor.
Alright. So you go 1 and then you got 3 until the first one. 1, 2.
Right, so now interestingly enough...
That's a major chord, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
Because I put 2, it should be 1, 2, 3.
Ooh, cool. Now this is a really funky chord sound. So how many... So alright, so let's go. E.
There's a challenge.
E. Now we're skipping, we wanted minor, right? So we skip 2, we play the next note, and then we skip 1, 2, 3, and play the next one. Right.
There you go.
Now that's great, but what chord are you playing?
You'd think an E minor chord.
Right. You are playing an E minor chord, but can you remember what I asked him?
E flat minor.
Correct. So let's do E flat minor now.
Okay. So what's the difference between an E minor and an E flat minor is the question.
So it's all to do with the starting note. So your starting note isn't E anymore, it's E flat. Good, same process. Skip how many?
2.
2, play the next note. Skip 1, 2, 3, play the next note. Nice job. Great. So E flat minor chord. Nice work. Now I know Will is fairly musical, and I mean that's a fairly hard one to jump to. I probably would normally with students do some more white note ones first, but that gives you an idea of the kind of place that you can go with this. Will, how about B flat major?
Oh, major. Okay.
Nice work. Great. Cool. And let's do with the left hand. How about E? No, let's do A flat minor with the left hand this time. Nice work. Great. Oh, I played the wrong one. Yeah, nice work. So with this kind of approach, the student can now go home and get used to playing these chord shapes. Now, one thing you could ask the student to do is see if they can work out all the matching chord shapes. So C, F, and G, all on the white notes, all same shape. D major, E major, A major, all the same shape. In the flats, D flat, E flat, A flat, all the same shape. So these kind of approaches can really shortcut a student's ability to quickly find a chord. So this week, you're going to have a few jobs to do, and I'd get him to write this down if we were doing this lesson formally. First thing you're going to do is I might show you a little app that I've got that's quite fun to use. So this app over here is called, and I put this in front of the student. I'm just doing this because of the recording we've got going. This app is called Decide Now, and it's literally just a spinner, and I've put in all the chromatic notes around the scale. So with this in front of the student, I just get him or her to press the button in the middle, and then you've got to play a major chord. Beautiful. And you could add, you could write G major and minor, or the teacher could just read it out. So let's try another one. This one's a minor. F sharp, minor.
F sharp minor.
Yep. Nice work. And always getting the student to also think and listen orally to what they're doing too, because it's all very well to memorize patterns and positions or count up semitones. But what we really want students to do is, like we'll notice right at the beginning, notice the difference between major and minor. So one other great little activity to do, and I'm going to quiz you on this next lesson, Will, is give you a little test, oral test on major and just deciphering between major and minor chords. So if you, without looking at what I'm doing, I'm just going to play you a chord. Tell me if it's major or minor. Here we go.
Minor?
Oh.
No, you go major.
Major, yeah. Here's the minor. Have a listen to the difference. Yeah, beautiful. What about this one here?
Major.
Good. And this?
Minor.
Very good. And this one?
Major.
It is major. So that kind of skill, really, really important for students. I'm not worrying about diminished or augmented chords. In fact, I don't really talk about that until right at the end because they're not used all that much in popular music. More so in classical and Baroque repertoire. It's still useful, and it was interesting that Will made a mistake right at the beginning. I think he played maybe an A diminished chord. I can't remember what it was exactly. So that could be a talking point. A lot of the content of this course can really be driven by students, and particularly the mistakes they make, because often the mistakes can be really valuable learning experiences, and you can bring things out of them. Okay. So we've gone through the lesson plan. That's pretty much well and truly enough for one student in one lesson. In fact, that could almost be a couple of lessons. You might just want to do the major ones on the white keys. You might want to do major and minor white, or major and black and white. Like, that's up to you. It's going to depend on the student, the amount of time you've got, all that kind of stuff. So use this appropriately for your student. But that big small method I find works really well. Getting students to visualize the patterns and shapes and find commonalities, really, really great as well. Homework tasks, you could use Decide Now. Go around, make sure you just see how quickly you can practice these different shapes. I want you to see if you can come back and tell me next time what chords have the matching shapes.
Yep.
Flat keys, so black note keys and white keys as well.
Yep.
And we might just do one extension activity with you because you're going pretty well. We're going to move chords to the left hand, and we're just going to play up the white note chords holding for 4 counts each. Like this. Can you try this? 2, 3, 4. Nice job. Etc. So we go up the scale.
Yep.
Nice and easy. Perhaps put a little beat on as well. And this time with your right hand, you're going to use some notes of the C major, what we call a pentascale. Just 5 notes in C. So any of those notes, and just kind of feel like little improv. Yeah.
Sure.
Now this, I wouldn't normally do this, but as I say, Will's showing he is understanding what's going on. So let's give it a little bit of a shot. The main thing here is that the left hand 4 beats each and moves up regardless of what happens to the right hand.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you only play 3 notes in the right hand altogether, totally fine. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and. Nice job. No, that's great. Really, really good. And you're creating music. That's it's a very simple chord progression, but it's fun. It's practical. It's using both sides of the brain. It's keeping a beat. All those kind of things. And did you notice what I was able to do on the second piano while he was playing? Just fill in some string sounds. String sounds, when you're playing chord progressions with students, are a winner because it makes everyone sound like a film score composer. So brilliant. If you've got that ability, then do that. And that app that I was just using then is called Super Metronome Groovebox. Just creates really quick beats really, really easily. You saw how quickly I was able to find it and play it with the student. And I've noted all of those things down here, including the progression to explore. So that's it for lesson 1. Remember, you can grab this free lesson plan over at timtopham.com/chords. And again, this is just an introduction to the concept. So we haven't actually started composing really yet, but these lessons 1 and 2 in particular are really important grounding steps for students before they go on and try and make their own music. So don't skip over these with students unless they already have a good idea about chords and chords playing. In the next video, we're going to revise a few of those little things that we've talked about today, and then we're going to get on and play some cool chord progressions that's used commonly in pop music today. And then in module 3, we'll actually start with the chord 4-chord composing before we go on to melodies and adding sus chords and add 2 chords and styles and patterns and forms and structure. You name it, this course covers it, and we look forward to seeing you in lesson 2.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little introduction. Of course, this is just one of 10 modules in this course, and it does give you a flavour, though, of how I go about teaching and how it works for students. Now, as I said, we are doing a super special deal on this course this month. Normally, if you buy this course as a one-off purchase from Top Music Courses, it'll set you back $149. But this month, in celebration of our theme, we are giving it to you for just $49 as we want to get as many teachers as possible exploring this framework. So what you need to do to get the discount, head over to topmusic.co/4cc and write down or remember this coupon code. This is the way you're going to get the $100 discount. The coupon code is CHORDS100. CHORDS 100. Chords 100. If you put that in where it says, have you got a coupon code? Then that will take the price down $100 to just $49 for this incredible course. My favorite of all of the courses I've created. So what do you get when you buy the course? You get 10 comprehensive video modules with me teaching my student. You get lesson plans to guide you teaching the framework. They're ready to print out, and you can print out the whole 10 weeks of lesson plans with one click. You get 1 year of access to everything and can download whatever you need for this course during that time. Of course, you can extend it if you want. You can ask questions if you have them. And we've even uploaded some video examples of teachers whose students are playing their own compositions inspired by this framework. It's been out for a few years now, and we've had so many teachers share videos of what their students have created from this course. It's phenomenal. So we've included some of those in there. You'll be able to access it. Head over to topmusic.co/4cc and remember that coupon code CHORDS100. Now, a lot of teachers have gone through this framework and have implemented in their teaching. So let me share some of those success stories. So Elaine told us, I like adult piano adventures as a starting point, but supplement with Tim Topham's 4 chords, which is absolutely the most effective way to make either adult students or teens feel as if they're really sounding great really quickly. Lead sheets. Elaine Daniels says, I like adult piano adventures as a starting point, but supplement with Tim Topham's 4 chords, which is absolutely the most effective way to make either adult beginners or teens feel as if they're really sounding great really quickly. And another teacher said, this has been an absolutely spectacular game changer for me. Thank you for the material and the inspiration to step out of my comfort zone and have so much fun with my students. I also should have said that the students that I'm using the 4-chord composing with are stoked to be learning it. The embers of passion for music have been fanned into massive flames. Thanks again. Rebecca says, I use this course content a lot with my students, especially teens. Whether you use it all sequentially or just teach using the principles, the ideas here will help you fill those what on earth are we going to do with this pop song moments, as well as give you a framework to deepen understanding of concepts in a thoughtful manner. And just a couple more, because I think these really speak to the power of what is really quite a simple concept. Mindy says, your course simplified and energized how I approach my desire to tap into my students' creativity. I'm so excited about this new endeavor. I'm actually preparing my younger students for starting this unit in their studies by working with improvisation and fun scale and chord work. Creative composing is going to make this year really special in my studio. Blessings to you. And Alice said, my last student of the day was a 12-year-old boy, really nice kid, making really slow progress. Side note, we've all had those students in our studio, right? He came in really down because he'd been so busy with hockey and soccer and he knew he hadn't made any progress in his pieces. I said, let's do something different, and taught him some pop chord progressions, then the James Bond riff from the top 10 pop songs download. He ended the lesson smiling, and I assigned, just have fun with these, or anything else he enjoys playing this week. The student ended the lesson smiling. And finally, Alice told us, Tim, I've been both inspired and relieved to listen to your Ford chord pop method. I was writing out simplified pop song melodies for students to learn, which took hours, also teaching chords and bass parts to discuss different ways of accompanying. I loved your section about doing this with the students. I use MuseScore and are familiar with the basics when we do composition. Many thanks again for reinforcing and expanding what I'm instinctively already doing, but often feel like I'm not being a real, in inverted commas, piano teacher. Love you, the community, and the programs. Alison. Well, I thank all those teachers who have taken the time to give us some feedback and share their stories. It is fantastic to hear and read. And I really hope that you'll go and check it out. I hope you enjoyed listening to Module 1 too. Now, as I mentioned earlier too, after the course, we do have a couple of, maybe 3 really closely related courses in our Top Music Pro library that build on the skills that are learned in this course. Because what I found is after a year or so of having this course out there and hundreds of teachers completing it, a lot of them would get to the end and go, Tim, help, what do I do next? Where can I go with this? It's so good, the students engaged, but what happens next? So what happens next is, if you want to, the student can take with you our songwriting course. So we have a comprehensive songwriting course, which literally steps through the concept of songwriting based around the chords and the chord progressions that they will have made in 4-chord composing. So it links in beautifully. We also have the GarageBand course that I mentioned before. So this is fantastic because you can put in some of those chord progressions that the student has created into GarageBand and create beats, bass lines in all different styles, from EDM to jazz to pop to rock to cinematic film with strings, all of those kinds of things. And it's all in GarageBand on iPad. So if you have an iPad, I don't think GarageBand is on Android, and this version, some of these features need the iPad version, not the laptop version if you have that. So if you do have an iPad, GarageBand is a great program to have. And if you want to know how to get the most out of it, make sure you check out our GarageBand course. That's also in our Top Music Pro library. And finally, we do have another one called Playing by Ear. This by Simon Rushby. He's an ABRSM examiner and education consultant. He also created the songwriting course. He's phenomenal. And he also created this course called Playing by Ear for us, which really teaches those fundamentals to get students listening actively to what they're doing and understanding it, and then putting it into practice in their playing. We've got so much great stuff out there, but as I said right from the start, if you want to just check out the 4-chord composing course and you're not ready to dive into membership at the moment, head over to topmusic.co/4cc and use that coupon code CHORDS100 to get $100 off and bring the price of what is my favorite all-time teaching framework and course down to just $49. That's the end of the show for this week. I have so enjoyed sharing that with you, and I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today. I'm Tim Topham, and you've been listening to the Topcast. Can't wait to speak to you again this time next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support, and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today. If you enjoy this show and want to hear more of our work, be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening today. For links and resources mentioned in this episode, visit us at topmusic.co/podcast or check out the show notes. I'm Tim Topham. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy your week ahead, and I'll catch you next time.